You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Iron Lady sings it. That makes it official. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your mother-in-law, because she's just never been happy with you. And, I mean, seriously, you can kind of see why. Anyway, guys, for all your mother-in-laws and all your friends, neighbors, relatives to the Chris Voss Show, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. We're falling apart here on the Chris Voss Show already. And all those crazy places on the internet. We'll get this rolling before we completely explode. We have an amazing young lady on the show with us today. We're going to be talking to Erica Allen. She is the founder and CEO, Strategic Development and Programs for Urban Growers Collective. She's also the president of Green ERA Educational NFP and co-owner of Green Era Sustainability Partners. She's also been appointed by the Illinois governor to the Illinois Leadership Council for Agricultural Education for a 3-year term, and she was also recently appointed by the Biden administration to join the Farm Service Agency Committee for Illinois. She's also a co-chair of the Food Equity Council for the city of Chicago. Darn it! Welcome to the show, Erica. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Chris.
There you go. Well, there's always shitty parts of a city. Chicago, New York, LA, pick your place. So I guess that's what, I don't know what the hell.
We'll just compost that. We'll compost that. I take that as a compliment for my fine city.
Yeah. You got to use that.
Yes.
Welcome to the show. Give us .coms, wherever you want people to find you on the interwebs.
You can find us at urbangrowerscollective.org, and we can also find us at greenerachicago.com, just for general information, and run all the LinkedIns, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, etc.
Yep. I think when I let slip shitty, I was thinking of the Chicago Bears performance the last few years, maybe. Oh,
we love our Bears through thick or thin.
The Bears.
Yes. The blue and the orange, always.
Hey, I'm in the same boat as a Raiders fan, so I can't throw shade. So give us a 30,000 overview of what you do.
I think the big picture is food justice and developing community food systems that people can control and operate, and that provide sustainable, and these are all these buzzwords, but just kind of in simple terms that where your food's coming from, multiple generations can access food, and to do so in a way to also transform how we look at care and the environment. And, for us, it's really doing this within communities that have had the most historic impact of not having access to, multiple sources of nutritionally dense food and economic opportunities. So we try to do, just meet the need, but also create new economies and opportunities for folks to transform their own communities. So we've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm a she, her, hers, we. I use a we a lot because I work collectively. I'm one person who has had a vision and has been, privileged to be able to work in a city that has the complexities and the opportunities for transformation for my career. And through that work, we've really been able to create a culture and multiple food systems where people are growing a lot of food in the city now. And so if we can grow food in the city, that means our friends in the suburbs and in the rural parts of our communities can do this without as many social pressures. And that's really important, that we all think about how we can impact our carbon footprint and impact supply chains through our own efforts. And to me, that's really, regardless of politics, et cetera, or even access to resources, it's something as a human being that we all should know how to grow food and to be able to continue our relationship with the earth and with one another through our food system.
There you go. Why is it important to grow our own food, especially in the cityscapes where it's just concrete jungle, as opposed to just hitting the menu at McDonald's?
I think you answered your own question, right?
Probably.
So one of the things that happens when you start thinking about growing food, even if it's, a couple pots on your windowsill, or if you have a little, side yard, or if you're fortunate to have a larger backyard or some acreage, is you have to deal with, is there contamination? Is there fertility? What's happening in the soil? Happening in the environment? My dad coined this term, it all starts, it's all about the soil. It's from the ground up. It's all about the soil. And it really is. You are what you eat. So if you know that your soil is full of fertility, that you're able to cultivate and control what's in your soil, then you know what you're putting in your body. And there's a correlation between environmental health and our human health. Food that we eat, if it's not nutritionally dense, we're depriving our systems of the phytonutrients and the basic building blocks to repair our cells and to just function fully. A lot of our food is overprocessed. So just having the opportunity to have fertile soil, grow some carrots, grow some greens, grow some tomatoes, and have that control also means when there is a supply chain breakdown, like we saw in the pandemic, that you can supplement storage crops, right? Or your rice and beans, things that are shelf stable. If you're able to grow your own food and have sort of that victory garden mentality, that you always can jazz up some of those things and make sure that you have the nutrients. And also you trade and share with folks in your community that may not have, access to some of those things economically.
There you go. I mean, the next time we have a massive crisis like the pandemic again, I'm just going to figure out a way to barbecue and eat the zombies.
But yeah, they probably aren't eating the kind of foods that would be, make them delicious. So let's not do that.
They're not vegan. So goodness what they've been eating.
Or omnivore, just a healthy omnivore, That's, yeah.
Well, in today's world, they're after brains, and on social media, they're not going to find much. One of the things that I did, I've seen Facebook, and, one of the things I did was I ate horribly for most of my life. In fact, you can tell by looking at me. And somewhere around, I think it was 2016, I got tired of being 100 pounds overweight, and I got tired of feeling like shit all the time. And I read, it was a book by Penn Jillette called Presto, and it talked about how he lost 100 pounds by switching his food sourcing. And, I was doing the same thing he was. I was eating out of the frozen food section, going to the McDonald's and, all the fast food joints, and drinking, I would think, about 10 to 15 Mountain Dews a day. I'm not even kidding on that. And then I would mix it with vodka at the end of the night. It's Mountain Dew vodka. It's nasty, but it works. And so I was just living this completely awful lifestyle. And it became what I call veganese. Don't write me, people, because I know there's 5,000 variations of vegans, and I can never get any one of them right. So I don't care. So never mind. Anyway, so I started doing veganese. So I basically started eating broccolis and cauliflower. I started learning about live foods, how to eat. How to, you stay in the grocery, in the produce section of the store. You don't go down the evil aisles, like the chip aisles, the pop aisles, the candy aisles. And if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. This is one of the rules I learned from Penn Jillette. So you don't bring it home. You don't play that Faustian bargain with yourself that you're going to only eat one Oreo a day out of the Oreo pack. Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
It's never going to happen. That thing will be gone in an hour at home. I started living that way, and I lost 100 pounds in about, I think it was 8 months.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
And I didn't put it back all on. No, I'm just kidding. But I eat healthy now. I intermittent fast now. The way I feel now of eating live whole foods is just 10,000% difference in the quality of my life and how my body works.
Yep. And one of the things too that we know around just sort of the mitigation of just the quality of food and staying away from processed food, whether it's for, weight reduction or chronic diet related illness. And I think in our case, a lot of the communities that we work with is also dealing with trauma. And so having an inflammatory response to the traumas of gun violence, systemic poverty, And, just the stress of, surviving or dealing with, issues that we don't have control of, and how food becomes one of the things that we do have agency over. We have to eat 3 times a day. And for communities and individuals that don't have control over a lot of the external things, that, the food system become a powerful force for healing, but also can become, detrimental in shortening our lives if we're not really looking at the kind of the holistic perspective on all of the challenges that we face on an individual or societal level. So the work that I do really kind of is complex. It's more than just growing food in gardens, but really thinking about place-based kind of de-escalation spaces where young people can get a break from the things that they're contending with on the day-to-day, where they can see new realities for themselves and others, gain social skills, cognitive behavioral interventions can actually take root in those spaces, because I can try on a different way of living as opposed to being outside of that fence and having, things that are pretty horrific that now, I mean, everywhere. I mean, we kind of get a bad rap in cities like Chicago, but whether it's, different kinds of opioid addictions and all the related trafficking that happens with that, or in the city with gun violence and just unexpected, murders that happen on a day-to-day basis that affect the people in our organization and the communities that we work with. These are things that, surprisingly, having a garden, having a farm, growing food can really mitigate some of those stressors. And then we're creating a local supply, food security at the same time.
There you go. There's kind of an empowerment to it when you learn to grow your own food. I like to grow my own food. Unfortunately, I've been staying more in Utah, so you lose a lot of, you have to start over every winter after every winter.
Yeah.
But
same in Chicago.
Yeah,
we're seasonal, but we do extend the season with low-tech hoop houses. So we're able to grow a lot of kale and collards and Swiss chard and some root crops without heat in hoop houses, even in our Chicago climate.
That's what.
So you have no excuse. Yeah, you can grow year round.
I need a greenhouse. I'm seriously. Every year I'm like, I need to buy one. Now tell us about this project you're working on called the Green Era Campus that you have there in Chicago.
Thank you. Yes. So the Green Era Campus is centered around this idea of a closed loop system or closed loop economy. And it's really a mirror of what happens in nature. So what we're doing at the campus, the heart of the campus, is something called an anaerobic digester. And it sounds think about aerobics, right? Like you do your aerobics, you're increasing your oxygen intake, and that's helping you burn energy, right? That's something that we're all familiar with. Anaerobic means without oxygen. So it's basically an apparatus that looks kind of like a grain silo that has like a big ice cream like a paddle in it, and this is 5 stories tall. And it slowly mixes food waste that's been pulverized but it's kind of like a loose oatmeal slurry. Sounds kind of gross, but it just breaks down slowly, just our digestive system, and microorganisms are eating that food waste. And as they're eating all that food waste, they're releasing methane. They're carbon-based life forms just like us. So we're carbon-based life forms. When we eat and we release gas, we're releasing methane. And we're not walking around capturing it. But I guess somebody could. But that doesn't seem like an efficient way to create a renewable source of natural gas. But it really makes sense when, in cities like Chicago, where we produce a lot of organic waste, food scraps, food manufacturing waste. And right now, what doesn't go to the emergency food system, in food pantries that's still fit for human consumption, or to farms, it goes to landfills. And we do not want that. We want that food waste, those byproducts to come to our digester so that we can break down that food waste responsibly, capture the methane before it hits our atmosphere, because methane is one of the biggest causes or mitigating factors for climate change that we can actually control. And then we also are producing a new energy source. And at the end of the day, all that material comes back out to our farms to grow more food. So we're circulating that food waste that, those scraps from your dinner, your chicken bones, your broccoli bits, your all that, healthy, delicious food that you're eating now, Chris, whatever whatever you're not consuming, we want to come to the digester so that we can recirculate it. So you have a perpetual supply of that food, and we're also contributing to decarbonization. Oh. So that is like the heart of it, and it really represents a new way for communities, and this is in a community. It's not off in the outskirts of town. It is part of the fabric as both a place-based. We're doing this here. We don't want to increase our miles of moving this material around. We want it to recirculate and be an asset, and also begin to shift the way that we think about our participation within our own food economy. So the project is a economic development kind of instigator as well, because now there is more green business that's attracted to the work that we're doing. And the site as a campus will also support, I talked a little bit earlier about the hoop houses that we grow in, a vertical farm. So we can grow your tomatoes and strawberries year round using higher tech growing technology, because we have a fuel source. We'll also be hosting students from, starting in elementary school up to postdoc to do research and to learn about food systems. And, whether it's the trades, learning how to weld and innovate and build these systems, to folks who are just, interested in developing new technologies, new green technologies. The campus will support a retail store, so folks can come in and purchase, and also have sliding scale opportunities for folks who have limited incomes to get this healthy food, because we want to make sure everybody in our community has access and has the pathway and clarity to, eat these foods. That's good for all of us, for our society, that we're healthy, and I believe that good food is a human right. Clean air is a human right. Clean water is a human right. Shelter is a human right. And these have become negotiable, and they shouldn't be. So if we operate out of a sense of abundance, that we're still creating a market economy, we're still going to generate money. Everybody wants money, and we need it. But we can do so without extracting and harming our environment or one another. And to me, that is really what good business is. The bottom line is important. I'm not really competitive, but I like a good problem to solve. And it is complicated to do this work when you up the ante with technology too, because technology is expensive. And how do you do that? How do you enter into something that's a little bit more kind of startup intensive? This is a $35 million project just to build this first phase of the facility, so that we can actually have this apparatus that to scale can generate enough revenue and enough gas and enough compost to really activate a new economic reality. Wow. So that's what we're doing. And it's really based around what a decentralized food and energy system can look like, that engages our communities, that is profitable, that supports, that doesn't dictate one way of doing things, that supports and encourages more food waste diversion from our landfills, and creates space within those landfills for things that really do need to be landfill, because some things you can't recirculate, as we move into a much more responsible way of living in our cities.
Wow. It's all encompassing. And, you mentioned poor people that are on limited incomes. They're usually the ones who eat the worst, poorly. They'll, they go to the McDonald's and they eat the highly processed foods that, we've pretty much found these things are cancerous, these highly processed foods. Yeah. Yeah. They're not good. So you're creating this on a 9-acre vacant brownfield, south side of Chicago. Former
brownfield. It is no longer a brownfield. Oh, so okay. We've mitigated that already. So that's already creating more public health by it is no longer a brownfield. We've cleaned it up.
What's a brownfield for those who don't know, including me?
A brownfield is any piece of land that has contamination, that the EPA there's certain levels of metals, carcinogens, just like usually industrial waste that was not cleaned up. So we were able to acquire without, we had this whole project it's just kind of an economic marvel in itself, because we were able to work with just some really, generous and risk tolerant community development entities to finance and fund the project. But one of the things that we were able to do was to leverage field remediation funds to increase the value of the land, to then use it as collateral to access capital. Because I found it sounds kind of ignorant, but I'll just say it because I've worked in the not-for-profit space my whole career. You can't actually get loans without collateral or money already. Wow. So it's kind of like an impossible thing without somebody co-signing or having something of value to access capital. So if you don't have land of value, it's really difficult to scale or to build wealth. And I think this is something that, doing not-for-profit work, which is essentially resolving longstanding social, environmental, economic issues with very limited resources. Whereas there's industries that don't do that. They're motivated to generate profit. And then not-for-profit realm, we do the cleanup work, right? So, but really it's antithetical to what good business is, because we can create these opportunities, these models where we can do all of those things at the same time. And I think that this next generation coming up is very interested in that, is not as interested in, I call it the gold-plated toilet kind of situation, or, I don't know, private jets, or some of these kinds of abstracts that are really aren't based on any kind of real happiness, but knowing that one's life energy can be spent on, creating peace and prosperity within our own communities, understanding why and how to actually scale something was really important for us. Wow. So our project is not, it is all encompassing, but it could be many different industries just operating within this socially responsible way that's also profitable. But not knowing, I really never thought about it, because I wasn't trying to be in debt, trying to divert people from incarceration, young people. That's a requirement. So that's a long-winded way for me to answer your question. Brownfields are just leftover contaminated spaces that industry left behind in communities. So we had to clean it up. So we were able to get money from some grants from federal EPA, and then here in the Chicago area, we're in Region 5, so the Great Lakes and Illinois EPA. And that allowed us to then move forward on the rest of the project. So
there you go. Yeah. Maybe that's a way to use to re-green EPA Superfund sites or something like that. Maybe. Exactly.
We're not a Superfund site. This is a grade below that. But yes, that is one of the I think the strengths of our work is that it is mitigating, especially in communities they tend to be low income, or as you said, poor communities, tend to be in communities of color, tend to be placed by some of these, cancerous areas where you see just higher, rates of cancer, of asthma, of autism, all kinds of, health detriments. So how do we eliminate that? How do we create opportunities for folks who, nothing like some fast food, and it's a quick fix. You get addicted. It's sugar. Our bodies can't handle the corn syrup and the other things that are in those foods, and we get addicted to them. And to mitigate that, if you start eating the foods that you talked about, just to transform your own health, what does that look like at a community scale? So the next generation isn't growing up with those inflammatory responses, is able to, live a healthy, long life and be productive. You can't function well if you don't have the nutrients for your brain to develop correctly, and just to be able to mitigate, just pathogens and things that we all, our immune systems encounter. And there's been such a disconnect in lieu of convenience. And it's not convenient to be sick. It's not convenient to have your kidneys blown out before you're, an elder, or really no one should have their kidneys blown out, but, things happen. But when you're in late adolescence, we have young people who are having all kinds of organ failure because of the things that they're eating or not eating.
Yeah.
So all of our work kind of revolves around that. And of course, it affects behavior, right? It affects how we make decisions. And to be able to be part of a organization and to lead some of this work is a real privilege, to be able to be counter to some of these detriments.
You sound like you're doing an amazing job, and all-encompassing, too, from every angle. When I ate poorly, I was living on Rolaids, and I would have a bottle by the bed, probably go through, 5 or 6 at night. My stomach would send food back up sometimes in the middle of the night. I think for a while I was suspicious that I'd burn out that valve that goes in your stomach from too much acid reflux from eating just the worst stuff. And it was always fast food and lots of Advil. I think I was living on Advil, not Advil, Tylenol, which is not that great for you either. But I was living on all that sort of stuff. And when I cleaned up my diet, it all went away. I quit the pop. I quit everything. I started eating salads and making myself broccoli, and then I learned what you guys are probably doing. I got empowered by learning how to make broccoli taste great, cauliflower taste great. And it's kind of all about taste too. That's how they get us to these fast food joints. They bioengineer this frankenfood to hit our dopamine centers and make us addicted. And if you design, vegetables right and season them well, they can taste as good as any burger, and you'll feel good afterwards. You don't want to eat a half a pound of Rolaids. So you guys are helping process up to 55 million pounds of Chicago's total food waste. I'm thinking of pizza right now for some reason when I said Chicago. And 300 plus new jobs for the community. You guys make such great pizza. 42,500 tons of carbon dioxide offset by green area technology each year. That's really important because I just read a study today, I think it came out this morning, that the most methane gas is put out by people who eat at Taco Bell. Oh! No, that's true, folks. That's a joke. Let's talk about your other project, or I'm not sure if it's similar, the Urban Growers Collective as well.
Yes, all those stats that you shared we're just opening, so we're not, that's what we'll hit when we're in full operation. Urban Growers Collective is one of the partners at the campus. So we farm at 8 different sites throughout Chicago. We started off as Growing Power Chicago's office back in 2002, and slowly increased our footprint and worked with the city and the state to, actually have policies and zoning that allowed for food growing, because for a while it was not part of the city's code. So it was actually not legal. It was not legal to take let's say your coffee grounds and your broccoli fixings after you've, your scraps down the block to the community garden, because it was not allowable. It was all trash, there was no separation of organics from trash. And of course you can't just go and start a landfill somewhere. So we had to work with policymakers to change that. So Urban Growers Collective continues that kind of practical problem solving, working with folks who have been challenged socially, who've been formerly incarcerated, and also folks who are passionate about growing food, who come from academic backgrounds. We have a multicultural approach to growing food and problem solving within the context of creativity and healing. Our urban farms all employ youth. Many of youth, their first job, including my son, actually, his first job was last summer with Urban Growers Collective. And our goal is to really improve and introduce food and growing literacy, so that we don't have a generation of young people who think that a carrot comes from a styrofoam, plate from the grocery store. It has no idea that little seed, when you put it in the ground, grows into a carrot. I mean, I can't tell you throughout my career how many aha moments with kids who would pull out a carrot from the ground and be astonished, who had no idea. And it sounds so like basic, but
Yeah.
just that connects us to nature, especially in cities. And, you know, and so if I understand where my food comes from, I understand how hard it is to grow it, and how important it is to creating, you know, just the health, then I'm going to appreciate that. I don't expect everybody to become a farmer or a grower, but I do think there's an opportunity for everybody to support and want to know who's growing their food and where it's coming from. And our work really centers around that. And the healing aspect, the food as medicine aspect, we have grower apprentice programs, we have youth core programs. The food as medicine is probably one of our most popular programs because everybody wants to know how to not only work with plants and the foods that we eat, which of course are delicious, especially when they're fresh and local, but also the medicinal properties. And there's so much plant medicine. Most of the pharmaceuticals that we use come from plants. They've just been synthesized and put in pill form, but they come from plants. And there's so many things that you know, teas and just simple things that are adaptogenic, meaning that the herb, the plant, one of my favorites is yarrow or tulsi, holy basil. These are adaptogenic herbs. You make a tea and your body just uses what it needs to use. And it helps to mitigate all kinds of inflammation and has, you know, helps to with some of that acid reflux you were talking about, or, you know, just helps to smooth out the edges within the system. The plants, you know, have evolved along with us. So they have all the remedies that we need. Mint. We all know that mint tea soothes the tummy, right? It helps to open up the breathing ways. So these are just things that like people are very interested in knowing about, as, you know, in terms of just personal, just having autonomy and control over our own, you know, body systems, but also to have relationships with plants, which sounds kind of corny, but it's really powerful when you tend a plant and you understand its uses and how that can translate to having more care and respect for the people in your community and one another.
There you go.
So it's been really a powerful transition, both in terms of the food as medicine understanding and both prevention and preservation of health, good health, and prevention of dis-ease, right? Not being in an easeful way. We don't want to be in pain or be worried about our bodies, right? We want to be focused on our purposes in our lives and to contribute to society in positive ways. And we can't do that if we don't feel good, if we're crabby all the time, if we don't get enough, maybe we're full and empty at the same time because the food that we're eating is not nutritionally dense and is not giving our body the nutrients it needs. And that, of course, affects so much. And so that's what we do.
There you go. So how can people get involved? How can they support you? How can they help you? How can they reach out and be part of the program?
Well, of course, we're not-for-profits. Financial donations are always very helpful, but also just, you know, come to one of our farm stands. If you're in our area, you know, subscribe to our collective supported agriculture, which is a weekly subscription that you get a share of all the things that we're growing and gets delivered to your home. Come out and volunteer. We can come and volunteer. I was just at the farm earlier this afternoon, and we've had all this heat and rain, so we got a lot of weeds to pull, and it's very satisfying to pull some of these weeds.
Yeah.
And you know, so volunteering and then just participating. You know, we have a grower apprentice program where people can sign up for that and learn over a 3-year period how to grow cooperatively, we've kind of lost the art of cooperation and shared work and responsibility, but just to learn how to grow, to be able to, whether it's for business or just for homesteading or just for curiosity. And, you know, I think just learning more, you know, participating in your local food system, you know, as a collective of a board of directors of of other lateral organizations that all collaborate. We're really moving into a less competitive and more cooperative way of thinking about all the abundance and opportunities within our communities to care for one another and to nourish one another. And then from that, being able to have more stabilization and build a truly equitable society where folks aren't so angry about everything.
There you go. Maybe we can build some of these sort of systems in prisons and help people feel more empowered, maybe.
I would like to build those systems outside of prisons. And so when people are done, hopefully avoiding having to go to prison, and then coming out of prison, having safety nets in place so that folks aren't falling into the same traps. I think that's really important. Prison is not an economic development tool. Prison is something that does not necessarily work. From my opinion. And I mean, there's folks that I don't necessarily that need serious rehabilitation and will harm, themselves or others. I'm not speaking in those terms, but speaking around the detriments of systemic and structural racism and poverty, we have to do things differently. And I've seen transformation happen with the work of having meaningful work and having some of these basic human needs being met early. We make very different choices. And farms and gardens as intervention, trauma-informed care and understanding, and cognitive behavioral therapeutic interventions to really address the root causes of why people make poor choices, so that we can eliminate the continuation of some of these detriments.
There you go. And, we've had lots of scientists on the show that talk about how the gut is your second brain, and how when you have inflammation in the gut from processed foods and poor eating, it goes directly to the brain and swells the brain and inflames the brain, and then you probably don't make the best decisions. I might have been guilty of that after a couple of shots of vodka. But
I'm just still on the vodka and the Mountain Dew and the amount, and that you're this coherent. So you're a testament to the healing power of vegetables.
Yeah, I certainly am. I gave up drinking completely in 2020. I didn't have to. It's not like I had a problem with it. But I just... starting that journey of listening to my body and eating right, I started really hearing what was going on with my body. And it just became apparent that, 2 or 3 hours of fun on Friday nights or Saturday nights equaled 3 days of dehydration, water bloating. I would just feel ground down for 3 days. I would feel it. And I didn't feel it before because I don't know, I guess I just kept drinking every other night. But, and plus, getting old, you kind of start to feel stuff. But I would just feel it. And I just started listening to my body. One of the things I'll endorse too is you mentioned, the importance of local farms. When I went green, I was just going through the produce at the local big box grocery store. Here in Utah, I'm lucky enough that we have some local farms, and they do hydroponic, I think it is. So they run year round, even though it freezes here half the year or most of the year. Or I think it's frozen all the time pretty much. Maybe it's people's brains here. I don't know. The Utah jokes. But I go now to a local farm, and I got to tell you, the lettuce, everything they make there is like so different than the lettuce and vegetables that I buy at the store that are shipped in from, I don't know, other countries and stuff like that, and they're somehow they're preserved, or they take tomatoes, I guess, and they blow methane on them to get them to ripen faster. So they're kind of forcing the production of them. But I got to tell you, the food that I get from my local farm, and I'm really lucky, there's one like 4 blocks from me, and the taste of the lettuce, the taste of the spinach, all the stuff they make is 10 times better than what you get at the store. And the other thing too is it looks healthy. You buy like a thing of lettuce at the store, and it has that pale green sort of look. The lettuce that I get is like rich. Your brain sees it and goes, I want to eat that, even though it's lettuce. And it just makes all the difference. I get they home make all their dressings. They have all this other food, and it's so much difference to eat there. So I'm a big proponent on, if you can support your local farms, please do. You'll thank me for it. Now, I noticed there's a donate button on the urbangrowerscollective.org. That's the place people can go and help out.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then on the Green Campus era, there's a donate button as well, it looks like.
Yes, that is. We'll be launching, you can donate now, but we'll be launching our campaign in the coming months to finish building the campus. So some of the things that, the vertical farm that's growing the hydroponic and aquaponic greens and tomatoes and strawberries, will be one of our workforce intervention programs, some of the decarceration, and when people come out of prison, having opportunities to, for restorative justice, to be able to really learn and grow, and then to be part of a worker-owned cooperative business, so that we're able to really turn the tides on some of these cycles, right? So to do that, and to have our education center, so we can work with communities, maybe even some communities from Utah who are interested in having some of these circular economy projects and having anaerobic digestion, so that we're really, creating sources of conflict-free energy, that we are recirculating our resources and having a direct impact on climate change by mitigating our methane. That methane piece is key. I forget about the use of methane for ripening bananas and tomatoes too, and that really speaks to how that gas accelerates and heats things up and really kind of creates something that we want to mitigate. And, so folks are interested in that, want to see the campus flourish and be this national and really international model of what communities can do to transform blighted areas into abundance. We would love everyone's support.
There you go. And the farm food lasts longer. I'll buy a head of lettuce or some tomatoes. They're dead in a week, maybe not even a week, maybe 2 or 3 days. They're wilting. Yeah. I buy lettuce from my local farm. It lasts like 2 weeks. It's still
alive. It's literally still alive. And so a lot of the food that we get in the grocery stores, it's gone through wholesalers. It's been shipped sometimes across the from another part of the world. It might be 2-3 weeks old before you get it.
Yeah.
And then depending on the market, some things can be put in cold storage and it might be 2 months old. Wow. Certain crops. And so when the price goes up, those products sometimes come out. So you don't really know what the age of what you're eating is. And it may still taste okay. Usually it doesn't really taste that good either. No. We just kind of get used to it, and it's nutritionally deplete. So people are trying to eat healthy. They get a bag of lettuce and they're just eating, water. They're eating water with some
fiber,
and the fertility, like what grew it? Is it really growing in organic matter? Is it a chemical fertilizer? So it's really, it's sad to say, but I call it dirty water food. It's just, yeah.
I'm not going to be able to get that out of my head now.
I know. Sorry. That's why I'm going to keep eating what you're eating.
But it'll motivate me to keep eating.
Well, just keep getting that green. Like when we grow romaine lettuce, it is dark green. It is dark green. It's vibrant. Maybe the core of it is that kind of lighter green, but the chlorophyll is just popping in those greens, and the flavor is rich. It just tastes totally different. And because it's just been cut, and if it's properly, harvest handled and kept in a crisper, that lettuce might get a little wilt after a week, but it's alive. It's literally alive. And it really, eating like food that still has energy in it is what we need to address all of to repair our chromosomes from damage, so we mitigate the onset of cancer and other disease.
Yeah.
So these are easy things that people can make shifts in and participate, because these are all things we can grow ourselves too, even if it's seasonal.
Yeah. It's all about diet. Yeah. I look at the food from my local farm, and my genetic brain, my biological brain, whatever that is, the hindbrain, it sees the food and it just sees how rich it looks in that chloroform color like you talked about, and it goes, this is good. I like this. Now when I go to the big box store with the lettuce, I look at it, I'm like, that looks dead. So there you go. Well, thank you very much, Erica, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for the great conversation. And I just appreciate you sharing your own journey with your listeners and with me today too. I think that's so powerful and courageous to make those changes in our lives, and how important it is to have access to these things so that we can make the best of our lives.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Give us your .coms, wherever you want people to find you guys on the interwebs as we go out.
Urban Growers, plural, collective.org, and greenerachicago.com.
There you go. The place for the pizza, too. Because you guys make vegan pizza?
There is vegan pizza. There's like pizza without gluten-free pizza. We have the deep dish. We have, my favorite is the Illuminati's. There's also vegan pizza at one of my favorite spots, Mangiani's. They started making, it's a vegan soul food place that is fantastic. So vegan pizza, it's a thing now. It's delicious. But we have, you don't want me to start talking about pizza.
I got stuck at I was having pizza last time I was in, and you guys have so many great restaurants there in Chicago.
We do. Yeah.
It's just amazing. But thank you very much for coming to the show, Erica. Thanks for for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one of the TikTok and all those crazy places in the internet. Be good to each other, stay safe, and eat well, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.